Hi, welcome back. I'm Mark Turner from Turner's Painting School. Today I'd like to introduce you to loading your palette with your paints and looking at a very basic colour wheel. So there is many different ways of loading the palette. This is just going to be one method, quite a simple method. What kit we're going to need today is a support to paint on. Remember, the support is the paper or canvas or board that you're painting on. It needs to be gessoed, as this is a pre-gessoed disc. This is paper, lining paper, like you'd get from wallpaper, 1700 gram, nice and heavy. I've drawn on this a few circles. I've just done it basically with different sized plates and a glass. And then I've divided it up. We'll look at that a little bit more shortly. The other things you're going to need is a palette or a plate or a piece of wood or something that's been varnished or oiled so the paints don't sink into it. A brush to paint with. If you like, a palette knife. Now, this realistically is not a palette knife, it's a painting knife, because it's got this bend in it so that when you're painting on your support your fingers don't touch the support, you don't get paint all over you. A palette knife is flat. Unfortunately I don't have one here in my little studio, but we can still use this. You're going to need some medium, a little tiny spot of medium. We're not going to use much. Again, that can be liquid, it can be refined linseed oil, it can be an alkyd medium. This is quick drying. You can use poppy oil, any oil will do for painting for now. And a little bit of spirit for cleaning your brush out. Obviously, if you are doing this in acrylics, you'll need some water to clean your brushes and them. You're also going to need some tissue paper for wiping up, cleaning up and wiping back if need be. And you're going to need your primary colours. Let's just review what the primary colours are. The primary colours are colours that you can't take other colours and mix together to make a primary. A primary is that, it's a primary colour. And they are yellow, doesn't matter at this stage again, use any yellow that you've got, a blue, and a red. That'll do us for now. When I load the palette shortly, I'm going to put more paints on there, just so you can see how I load the palette. It might help you in your future painting, but we will advance that as we move along. Okay, so let's look at loading the palette. So here's my palette. Now I actually paint with my left hand, so I would hold my palette like this, but unfortunately in this little tiny room the only place I can stand is here to do these videos for you, so I'm going to be painting with my right hand. So I'm going to load the palette for a right-handed person, so you would be holding like this. I'm going to select, you don't need to do this, I'm going to select white first. This would be my first colour, and I would place about a P on the top corner of my palette. I would then take the yellow, leave a small gap and place my yellow, leave a small gap, about 25mm will be fine, and the blue, I would then place my red, again leaving a 25mm gap or so. Now today I'm going to be putting on here a spot of Bistre, a brown, a Van Dyke brown, a burnt umber, something like that you could use. in future. Again, you don't need these other colours, you only need your primaries. And a spot of black. So that's my palette. Okay, let's think, why have I loaded my palette like that? Well, quite simply, lights to darks. A lot of people like to put the black next to the white, and that's fine if you want to go that way. The other thing that I've done is I placed all my paints right on the edge of the palette. And there's a reason for that, because if I place them down here, I'm losing mixing area. And what I can do with my paints like this, I can mix strings of paint and keep the palette neater. I've not got paint all over the place. Plus, if I'm holding the palette, I've loaded it to the left hand, there you go. If I'm holding my palette like this, the paint is further away from me. It's not going to get all over me. But I'm going to have to hold it like this now. Okay? Now, let's look at the colour wheel. So we've got a basic wheel here, and we're going to break it down first into our primary colours. I put a P on these. Now, if you go on the internet and you look at colour wheels, you get many different colour wheels. I've got one here, a pocket colour wheel, and it's very good, but they are quite complicated until you get to understand them. Now, I've actually turned the colour wheel round slightly to try to make it easier for you to understand. And this is the way I want you to look at it. First of all, I'm going to look at primary colours. So I'm going to think the sun is at 12 o'clock. The red hot sun is at 12 o'clock, looking straight up. Down on your right hand side, over here, is the sun is warming up a yellow cornfield. So think of it like that. And over on the left hand side, over here, you've got the cool blue sea. I know the sea isn't always blue, but just think of it like that, the cool blue sea. So we're going to start to paint this colour wheel now. Now you notice I've got different lines that I've drawn around the different plates. I don't want to be too concerned about that at the moment. We're going to look at that in our next lesson, where we're talking about value changes, lights and darks in paint. But for now, we're just going to paint these middle rings. Okay, so let's have a look. I'm going to take a spot of medium. Now, when I say a spot of medium, I mean a spot of medium. I use as little as possible, and sometimes none at all. I'm going to place the medium below the colour paint, and I'm going to use the lightest colour paint to the darkest, because if I use the strongest and darkest, my brush is more contaminated. If I use the lighter colours and work towards the dark for this, my brush isn't going to be as much contaminated. So I'm going to select the yellow, and as you can see, I'm not delving straight into the centre of the yellow. I'm taking it from the edge, I'm pulling it down in a string, I'm turning my brush over, I'm pressing the brush and pulling it back. That makes the bristles open up, and then as I pull back and to take the pressure off, the bristles close up and collect the paint. That loads the brush. It gives me more paint to paint onto my support. If I was to take a blob and put it onto my support, I've got a blob that I can move it around, but it's not as easy as loading the brush and then painting. So we load the brush. Now, because I'm using my right hand, I'm just going to use a maul to help me. And all this is a garden cane with a cork from Champagne on the top. And I'm going to rest that on my shelf. You can rest it on your support or on a table, anywhere. It's just going to give me something to rest my hand on. And I'm going to paint the warm cornfields. The sun is warming up the cornfields. I'm just going to paint this. And now we'll take a spot more medium, a spot more paint, I'm going to colour this area in. Now, when I was talking about the imprimatura and how translucent a paint can be, you can actually see as I'm putting this on. Now this is an opaque paint, and yet it's still quite translucent because it's going on really thin. Now, if you use a soft pencil to draw your circles, the problem you're going to have is the paint's going to pick up and it's going to smudge in. Don't worry too much about that. You can actually get rid of these pencil lines with your paint by rubbing them out. So that's our first primary colour. And if you wanted to, you could turn your brush round and scrape into there the primary. Okay, I'm going to wipe my brush, get most of the paint off it with the tissue, and then I'm going to clean it in a little bit of spirit. Now, what's important when you're cleaning the brushes, you've got your spirit or your water if you're doing acrylics in your container, and if you delve in and start banging the brush about to clean it, what you're doing is you're contaminating what's in there. So the best thing to do is to dip in and lift out and then wipe the brush. Dip in, lift out and wipe it, and just keep doing that a couple of times and you'll get that brush clean. You see that coming clean already. Once I've done that a couple of times and I feel it's quite clean, I'm not getting hardly any paint on my tissue, I will do the same with my medium. I kind of think about it as you wash your hair and you condition it afterwards. So I would dip it in my linseed oil and give it another wipe. And the linseed oil also does a good job of cleaning out that paint. A little touch more of the linseed oil or whatever medium you're using, and we're going to look at our next colour. So our next primary colour, we're going to go to the blue. And here we're using the ultramarine blue. I'm going to place my medium below it. I'm going to pull a string out, turn my brush over and load it. Take up my maul and paint in the second primary. You notice I'm using a flat brush for this. It covers a large area. You can use any brush. I'm using hog bristle. You can use a soft brush. Whatever brush is easiest for you and what you've got available. When I teach in the school, people say to me, what brush should I use? And what I say is, if the brush you're using feels too big, get a smaller one. If it feels too small, get a larger one. Try a different brush out and you get to find out what suits you best. I tend to use large brushes. And there we have it. And you can make this as neat as you wish. And there's our second primary colour. So, I'm going to clean my brush. I've got my tissue. I'm just going to turn it round because there's lots of yellow on there. I'm going to wipe out the excess first. Dip it into my medium, lift it out, clean it. Dip it in, lift it out, clean it. Then I'm going to dip it in to my oil and give it a good clean. That's ready for my next colour. So my next colour is the final colour. It's the red Epsom at the top, 12 o'clock. Small amount of medium, below my red paint. Pull out a string. Take up the maul. And colour my final primary.